1, 2, 3, here we go. Take motherfucking 2.
Welcome to the Boomerang Podcast. My name is Matt Geiger. I'm over here with my buddy Drew, and we're going to bring you some of the updates of what the heck is going on today, because what goes around always comes around. Andrew?
Right on, yeah. Welcome, and happy to be back. Excited, where we go over any kind of political, geopolitical, current events, finance, trending stories. And, I think the perspective that, we're giving to you is going to be something different that you won't see on any mainstream media. And so, let's jump into it.
Let's jump into it. I heard this story.
So where are we at, Matt?
So we saw the story that Trump retweeted with, what's her name? Jan Halper-Hayes. This is an interesting one. This is revealing. Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes. And she really laid it down to the mainstream media on live television. Yep. What do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, when you sent me the article, the interview over the weekend, I got an opportunity to look at it, and I saw Trump's Truth Social post about it as well. And I thought she said some crazy, phenomenal things. Had some really interesting points, things I'd never heard about, or I'd already been thinking about some of these things as well. But it's just kind of like, okay, cool, this is real. These things are happening.
She's talking about how Trump wants to relitigate the 2020 election.
Yeah.
What does she mean by that?
Yeah, well, essentially, what she said in the interview was, there were 60 cases brought to court.
Right.
Only 3 of those cases actually made it to court, so 57 were left out. Trump won 2 of the 3, right, and lost 1. But because of now them indicting him and charging him criminally, he gets an opportunity at due process.
Right.
Which means now he has subpoena power, means that he can litigate.
Present his case.
And present his case, exactly. Right. And a lot of the cases that were never able to go to court, he gets an opportunity to actually pursue.
Yeah. And what I found very interesting was Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes' background. 30 years at the DOD. Very hard to find out who she is. She says that Space Force has got the evidence. My guess is we haven't heard much about Space Force. Maybe she's an agent within Space Force acting in the DOD. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I believe it. I think something we talked about off camera was, when Trump created Space Force in 2018-ish. Maybe they took the good guys, the white hats from the DOD, and filled in things like Space Force.
Well, he wrote that executive order that specifically gave Space Force the authority to look at the election to prevent foreign countries from interfering, specifically with the 2020 election.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that would tell us, according to Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes, it would tell us that maybe the Space Force has all the election data.
Yeah, well, and if you just think about what they do in regards to, just any kind of satellites, all that, they have the communication.
Right.
Right? If you think about what Edward Snowden was able to get out, they have all the info, right? And that's what I think is going to be.
Do they have the 33,000 deleted emails?
From Hillary. I'm sure that somebody's seen them.
I think the good guys have everything. And I think that with this court case coming up, I think we're going to start seeing the truth, and we're going to start being – my take is that we're going to start seeing some of the real players in places like the Space Force. We have Jen Psaki was confronted about Space Force when she was, White House spokesperson, and she just laughed it off. She thought she played it off as a joke, and that told me right there. I'm like, there's something going on here.
Something more to it.
Something more to it.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think what Jan was talking about was the fact that we are going to relitigate the 2020 election. I think we're going to get the real election data, and it's going to show the massive fraud that had occurred right during that election. Because what happened? They certified the election illegally. That was treason on behalf of Congress, and we also have what out there? The Brunson brothers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Brunson brothers case, which basically is they're going to the Supreme Court saying these Congress people, right, whoever they may be, they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't follow their duty to the Constitution by actually going and looking at the election data, right? They just certified it, boom, 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 Biden, you're president, and they never gave it a look. And according to Ms. Halper over here, that could be treason.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so it's really exciting moving forward for, these kind of court cases to play themselves out and kind of really get to the information, right? And I think, she alluded to was, they do have all the information.
Right.
They do have it.
Right.
And Trump has actually known about this but he essentially, in her own words, is like didn't want to create a civil war,
Right.
and it's the country needs to go through the pain to
Right.
realize what's happening and be able to see it, and then,
He was acting responsibly, didn't want the country to go through the Civil War.
Correct.
And I'm thinking that what's going to happen here, if I had to guess, is this case is going to start to intersect with the Brunson brothers, right? Where the Supreme Court at a certain point in time can take up that case. Because what did we also know is that they said, the Supreme Court went into recess right at the beginning of that period of the year. And what we learned is that the Supreme Court can go meet at a bar over drinks, and they could talk about this whenever they feel like it. Right? So we can see that there's a massive cover-up. I think that anybody that's been discouraged by the 2020 election results, where you have your liberal friends saying Biden won, Biden, right, da-da-da-da-da, I think these are the people that are in for the real wake-up call, not the people who backed Trump, not the people that called out the election fraud. I think it's going to be our liberal friends who are going to be the ones here left in complete and total shock.
100%. And, just as another angle that, we had talked about off camera, but I thought was interesting to, dig a little deeper is the idea of America as a corporation. Right. And so, listening to that interview and then thinking about, okay, well, after our Civil War, right, you really had the U.S., you had the Crown, which is England, and you had the Vatican, right, who incorporated the U.S., and essentially, in regards to money and just everything that we're doing, they're all kind of connected, right? And so, Joe Biden, sure, he's the president of the bankrupt U.S. corporation.
Exactly.
Right? It's something you said that was extremely clever is, in the 90s, what happened to Trump?
Right, went through bankruptcy.
Right, so he's the perfect guy to...
Who better to take this country through bankruptcy than Donald Trump?
Right.
And what does that do? It allows you to get rid of studies that allow them to figure out what a frog's favorite color is, right? What a goldfish's favorite food is, right? These absurd money laundering, whatever you want to call them, that they stick in these budgets, these omnibus bills or whatever you want to call them. This is how we're going to root
$2 million
out
see how salmon react to cocaine.
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably a real study.
It is actually a real study.
And need I say more? And I think, the whole fact that the U.S. was incorporated in 1871, right, under this act, what are we doing? We're handing off the bankrupt corporation to the bad guys, right? And what does the Constitution implore us, we the people, to do? Is it implores us to go and start over and create a new constitution. And that's where I think we're headed. But I think what Trump's doing is he wants to get everybody on the same page first, right? Get the people to see everything, walk them through the fire, right? And then once everybody's on the same page, then we can move forward as a country.
Right. And let's go back to being a republic. Right.
Yep.
And a separation from, any other countries or a place like the Vatican. And something that she had mentioned that I found really interesting was us taking our gold back from the Vatican.
Yeah,
and she had mentioned 650 planes.
650 planes.
filled with gold.
And what does that tell you about gold? It tells you that we're probably going back to gold money, right? We also knew, I heard a story.
Standard.
Yeah, and I heard a story years ago. This is just me remembering this. You could probably Google it somewhere, but Trump seized, after defeating the ISIS caliphate, they took back something like $50 billion of gold.
Yep.
So I think what Trump was doing during his presidency, we're only going to learn about now, right? Future is going to prove past. So what we start seeing in the news, and this Jan Halper lady, like I said, I think she's Space Force. I think she's a higher up at Space Force. That's my guess.
Well, she said a DOD position, task force, right? Like
whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Right. We know the DOD's corrupt. Yeah. So what did Trump do? He probably figured, okay, let's go get the good guys in the DOD and the different government organizations. Let's give them a higher level, which is Space Force, and boom, we can track any data we want, root out the corruption, present it in front of the American public. That's what I believe we're living through right now.
Yeah.
Exciting.
And really go through the legal way of, and going through the court system.
Reestablish law and order.
Yeah, exactly. And make it visible for everybody to see.
Exactly. Get everybody on the same page. So for anybody out there that's discouraged, that sees Trump getting indicted on the day by day, right? Kick back, relax, grab your popcorn, grab a beer, whatever it is, sit back and enjoy the show. I think that would be our advice to you.
Absolutely. And, like you say, what comes around goes around. That's why you're watching the Boomerang Podcast.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get this going with you. I think we have some really good topics we can bring to the audience, just some different perspective. And, hit that like, share, subscribe button, and follow us. We'll be following you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.